So firstly, thanks Scott and team. We've been working with 123 for the last couple of years, and it's been an absolutely fantastic journey with them. We've learned so much from working with their organisation, and it's really benefited us. We're from Cranfield University. I want to do a show of hands like we did in the first couple of presentations this morning. So who's heard about Cranfield University? Or heard of Cranfield University? Okay. Who's heard of Milton Keynes University? Okay, because that's also run by us, and we'll say a little bit about that. Who's actually been to Cranfield University? Okay, a few people there. For those who don't know, Cranfield University is only about 3 miles that way across the M1. We've been a university, we've been on that site since 1943, and we're a specialist postgraduate university, specialised in technology and management. Very close to business. We don't have the traditional academic departments of kind of psychology, sociology. We have departments that are about energy, manufacturing, water, the environment, all big topical issues that face society today. Do you want to say a little bit about Milton Keynes University?
Yeah, I can do. So Milton Keynes University, it's great that so many people have heard about it. It's essentially is an idea to create a new university, something that's designed almost against the old themes of university in terms of trying to reinvigorate the idea. But it's the essential idea behind it is really to put that process of getting people ready to go out into the business world first and at the heart of what we do. So, but it's also focused around trying to address some of the key issues that businesses are finding. So as I was involved in the consultancy stage around developing MKU, and what we found by talking to businesses where they were finding that people that were coming out of university weren't really quite business ready, and they had to do, the businesses were having to do a lot of work to try and get people into that place over the first 12 to 18 months. So MKU's been designed around a concept around professional skills, but it's also been designed around some of those key areas where there's gaps at the moment of people or businesses are finding. So mostly around the digital skills gaps in cyber, digital development and digital business.
Great. And I should mention some of the tech that we've got on site up at Cranfield. So some of you might know that we've got an airfield up there. We've also got a flight corridor for drones. So we're doing a lot of testing around drones at the moment. We've got one of these remote air traffic controls. You've probably seen the EE advert with Kevin Bacon where they land a plane. Yes, we've got one of these remote, you can land planes, you can run air traffic control from an office, and we've also got a test track for autonomous vehicles. So there's a lot of technology at Cranfield. And what we want to talk about today is really the idea of digital learning, what we're seeing in the world around digital learning, some of our experiences over the last few years around digital learning, and I think some of the business need for that digital learning. And what we also want to do is talk to you and get your feedback on a new product or a new concept that we've got that we think meets a lot of organisational needs. So we want to sort of float that idea past you, that concept, a new product that we've got, and get your views on that. So we really need your help today on this, and we are going to do a little poll at the end to ask you some questions around what are the big themes in terms of learning and development that you would see for your staff, for your team, for your organisation going forward. So that's where we're going to go with the presentation. You've probably seen in the news this month, like literally is in the newspapers right at the moment, that in the UK, the number of vacancies in the UK for the first time has outstripped the number of unemployed people. Yeah, you've probably seen this news story recently. You probably, in all of your organisations, are struggling with this war for talent at the moment. It is becoming increasingly difficult to recruit really good employees. I'm hearing this from every organisation, every sector that we're working with. It's getting harder and harder to retain really good people in the organisation. And so when you think about this as business leaders, what levers do you have? in the organisation, okay? So you can kind of rely on your brand. That might attract people and retain people in the organisation. If you're kind of a Red Bull and you've got a facility like this, it's quite a good place to work. I'd want to come and work here. But if it's not that, it's probably wages, salaries, as your competitive advantage to attract people into the organisation. And if it's not that, it's probably promotion opportunities and getting to higher levels very quickly, which is kind of okay in a really big organisation. But if you're a small SME, what's the incentive to stay and to move on? I think the fourth lever that you've got is around the development of employees and people wanting to feel like they are developing in their role in the organisation. And we see in organisations, all the organisations that we work with, that learning and development is a standard expectation. People come into your organisation and they expect to be developed. They don't expect that there'll be no learning and development opportunities in the organisation. Surveys, lots of surveys tell us this. Learning and development increases retention. Learning and development also increases productivity in the organisation. And learning and development that you give to your employees also increases employee satisfaction and motivation. And just a little bit of academic, I'm an academic, so a little bit of theory here. Self-determination theory, motivation theory, 3 things that motivate people, A, B, C, so you remember this. First one, autonomy. So people want some choice. They want some discretion in what they do in their jobs. Yeah, they want some ability to have some way of choosing their own path. Okay, so that's A. The second one, belonging or relatedness. People want to feel part of something and want to be able to relate to others in the organisation. And the third one is competence. People want to feel like they're developing themselves. So even in motivation theory, we know that learning and competence development is absolutely crucial. And unless we're given these opportunities, then people will be leaving our organisations and wanting to move on.
So I was just going to add some kind of insight really into some of the conversations that we're having with businesses at the moment. So I work, broadly speaking, out of the executive development department at Cranfield. So we work with a range of organisations of all different sizes, usually around 30 to 40 different organisations a year, from global banks that you will definitely have heard of to government departments that you might not have heard of. And what we're seeing is there's a real shift at the moment. So the pandemic has caused this flip to digital, and now we've got this kind of flip backwards going on to where does face-to-face fit in it. So for L&D departments, they're trying to work out, so what does the balance look like? Where do we get that right? A conversation I was having recently with an organisation, they're probably one of the biggest employers in the country, and basically one of the things that they've been saying is they need to reduce the amount of time that they send people on face-to-face training now because it just costs too much. And so they're looking over the next 2 years to cut that by 50%. But what they don't want to do is they don't want to lose the training and development opportunities for their individual people. So they're looking at trying to find ways to make that happen. And I think another thing that we hear a lot from, I'll just quickly say before we move on, but the other thing we hear a lot from our clients as we speak to them is they actually want some kind of award or qualification that comes out of it. So there's quite a big challenge for L&D departments and people to how do they reach this situation that David's been talking about here, is how do you keep people retained and interested and motivated?
Good. So that's our first point. And one of the challenges we see with a lot of organisations is that there are some real kind of tensions. And we talked a lot about sort of the future and Bernard's work on the metaverse and all of that stuff that's coming. And people do want to work to learn and learn in different ways. But actually there's still some degree of wanting some degree of some of the more traditional notions of learning. So what we see is we get some real tensions here, because some of our client organizations, some of the learners we see, on the one hand, they say, right, we want bite-sized learning. You know, there's a whole move to this kind of micro-credentials, badged content. You can go on LinkedIn Learning, Coursera. You can download a couple of hours of learning, do it in your own time. People say they want that, but they also say they want some form of qualification or accreditation, and that gives them some confidence, and people want those formal qualifications to move on in their careers. So that creates a tension. Then the second tension that we see is that people say we want this really flexible, personalized learning, I kind of want to be able to do it on my own terms, in my own time. I often want to kind of do it alone. But then they also say, we want it structured and we want it supported, and we'd like someone to sort of hold our hand through this process and give us some support. And they say, really importantly, we want to increase our networking opportunities, and we want to learn with other people. So how do you do this kind of individualized, personalized self-learning, but also in a kind of community? So that's another tension. The third tension is people say, well, we want to just be able to access some content, some really good, relevant content. And that's all well and good. And e-learning and using the internet, digital, is definitely the easiest way to do that if you just want to consume content. But what they also say is, actually, we want to learn on the job, in our role. We want it to be relevant to our organisation. We want to be able to address organisational issues. And through addressing those organisational issues, leadership challenges that we face, we actually will learn, because we're learning by doing. So this creates a real tension, because how do we actually reconcile some of these tensions? And you as leaders in organisations, people in your organisations will be struggling with some of this. Like, how do you then access the best way to learn? And there's no product that does all of this. You can't find something that hits all of these areas, which is what we're trying to put together. And we put this up as sort of some typical people that we see, some kind of personas of typical learners that we have all the time. And this could be, maybe there are some of these people in this room that relate to one of these learners. There'll certainly be some of the people in your teams that relate to some of these learners. So our first person, Jay, I bet there's Jays in this room, okay? So Jay's got a formal qualification, doesn't really want to study anymore, but maybe Jay has been promoted into a marketing department just because they're really smart and they're a high flyer, but they actually don't know that much about marketing. So for Jay, the thing is, how do I access some really good marketing content to give Jay that information that they need to give them confidence in that role? And I bet there's a lot of those people around. Mary, we meet a lot of Marys at Cranfield, kind of experienced person, the safe pair of hands in the organisation, worked in your organisation for years, but never really had formal qualifications. So are really brilliant at their job, but have always got that kind of imposter syndrome, especially with this new talent coming into the organisation, kind of feeling, well, I kind of would like that qualification in order just to belong and to have confidence. And then you've got Anand. Anand might work actually maybe in one of your partner organisations or one of your supplier organisations, kind of an international student that got a degree maybe in an overseas university but really wants a UK master's degree to give them credibility, and maybe they want to come over and work for you in the future, and this is their passport to do that. And then Elise, we definitely have a lot of Elises around, okay? Elise is the techie that has very poor people skills and has been told in their performance reviews that they need to develop their people skills in order to move up to leadership positions in the organisation. Lots of kind of techie skills, but not the people skills. So how do you get that kind of people skill? And then we see a lot of Steves, which are kind of learning development or HR directors in organisations, or those responsible for it. And what they tell us is that what they would really like is to cherry pick certain topics and bits of content to meet a certain organisational need. And then they'd like it kind of a bit more contextualised to their organisation. And what they would really like is that if those people could pick up some awards along the way, that would give them some confidence in the programme. That would mean, especially if it came from a university, that it would be slightly different to what they could just get off the internet. So all of these needs probably exist in and around your organisations, or you might even relate to one of these needs.
I think, again, just to add to that, really, one of the things the pandemic has allowed us to do is talk in a different way to some of our learners. So we've had much closer contact with them on almost a daily basis. So we delivered all of our education live online throughout the pandemic, so there was no delivery that wasn't done online, live online, but so we were able to talk to people. And it was really interesting to just get some insights about how people were finding the difference between face-to-face and online, and what benefits and things that challenged them. I was interested earlier because a couple of times this issue of how much time we spend on social media a day came up a few times. I think it was somewhere between 2 hours and maybe 3 hours, maybe a bit more. But there was a study done recently asking people how much time they actually spent on their own development each week. And on average, it's something like 25 minutes a week. So when we compare those kind of figures that are spent in social media terms against what we actually spend on our own development, there's quite a big gap. We also found, I mean, there's one really interesting person I spoke to who was really getting a lot out of online learning. And one of the things that they told us, which certainly surprised us, was that they actually really enjoyed learning from the couch or the sofa. And the interesting thing about that was the reasoning was that they actually could spend time with a young family while still continuing to learn. So that they had the kids watching Disney Plus, but they were still able to do their own learning, which was just another interesting kind of add-on to some of these needs we're finding from people that the world has changed actually over the last 2 years.
Okay, so towards a solution, this is our digital stackable model, and this is what we want to get a view on. Is this something that you would find attractive and something that you think would be a benefit either to yourselves or someone that you know or someone in your team or to your organisation more generally? Okay, let me just go through this pretty briefly because it is a fairly simple concept, really. Okay, so what we've done is created here in bronze, silver and gold 3 levels of content. Your bronze content is about 4 to 6 hours of online content, very similar to a kind of Coursera, LinkedIn learning, okay? And you complete that, you get your bronze badge. Perhaps you do your kind of leadership one because that's what you're really interested in, okay? You can move on then to the silver one, which is about 6 to 8 hours, also online, do it in your own time, completely flexible. And then the gold bit is where you actually come together as a community of learners, and it's live online with a member of faculty, with one of the Cranfield professors, to talk through the issues. You've probably been set a set of assignments to go away, collect some data from your organisation, collect some data from individuals maybe you're working with, come back with that knowledge, and then share it with others and share it in a community of learners. And that's asynchronous online. And it's kind of 2 half days. You get your bronze badge, and then what we've done is linked up 2 of these modules together. So this goes, the leadership one goes really nicely with understanding people in organizations and organizational behavior, understanding individual differences. So you complete the same bronze, silver, gold badges. You get badges of those. You can stick those badges on LinkedIn. And what we've just managed to get through the university is that if you do both of these, you can set an optional integrated assessment, and this then becomes award-bearing. You get 20 credits for doing that. And that 20 credit award is a university award. You can go to graduation and get your 20 credit award. This continues to stack. If you do 3 of these, you get a postgraduate certificate. You can continue to learn at your own pace. You can continue to choose the topics that suit you. You can then choose 3 more elective of these postgraduate certificates. You get a postgraduate diploma. If you want to go all the way through the process, you can then add a thesis into that, and you can take it all the way to an MSc. And some of the attractions of this are that you start with micro-credentials, you're choosing the topics that are really meaningful to you. You create a personalized pathway. You can join a cohort of others because you could start at the same time as others if you want to. And you can take it as far as you want. And the key thing here is that most university kind of degrees is that you have to have a whole set of entry requirements to even get on the program. But with this, you kind of prove yourself as you go along. So you pass your first assessment, actually gives you the right to move on to the second one. You complete those, it gives you the access requirements to the certificate. So for those people that maybe didn't have qualifications, this is a great way to move up to kind of a master's level qualification. Great. Anything on?
Yeah, moving on. Okay, so David mentioned at the start we'd like to get some feedback from you in terms of some of the things that we're working on. So we did some research looking at a number of different areas basically to come up with what we thought would end up being the kind of the key themes that people would want to go through. And so what you can see on the screen are 12 key themes at the moment. Now this also ties up to a number of the themes that people like the Financial Times and those other kind of business-related publications are saying are the core themes for organisations over the coming years. So some of them will be pretty obvious and recognisable. Some hopefully will be more emerging. So if you are able to point your mobile phone at the QR code for us, or go to menti.com and type in the code 81586202, you should basically get access to a poll. We only really want you to pick your top 3. It will allow you to pick all 12 in various different orders, but just pick your top 3 and then hit submit. And then I think we can get some results, hopefully coming up live. There we go. Okay. So is your topic in there, David? Yeah, look, 4th.
Excellent.
You're doing all right. You're 6th now.
I've just been demoted.
No, you're going down. Yeah. Quick, more votes for leading organisational resilience.
Or leadership, I'll do that one too.
Probably not a surprise to see strategic marketing high up there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can look at these. I mean, some of these things perhaps are maybe not too much of a surprise. Digital transformation, we've basically been talking about that all day, and we're definitely something we would have expected. Organisational behaviour and leadership fairly high up as well as leading organisational resilience, which is great.
Interestingly, the change in digital transformation for this audience is in 7th. No, it's just gone up to 8. As if by magic.
Yeah, keep boosting them, Okay, that's great. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay, so the other thing, so you kind of seen the themes that we've kind of collected, we've researched and found, but we'd also like you, so I think if we can move the poll on, we'd also like you just to think for a minute about whether or not there's any other subjects, any other topics, any other themes there that we haven't captured that you think are relevant either to you, to your business, to young people coming through your organisations. And I think the poll should basically just have about 5 boxes there. So this should build a word cloud as people start to add it, hopefully. There we go, succession planning. And we'll just get a sense of what people are saying. So we do have a module on that will include diversity and inclusion, which is great, and sustainability. One of the things we've actually done quite recently at Cranfield is launched an online MSc in sustainability, which is delivered by one of our team, and that's gone really well. We've had really good pickup on that program, which is great. What else have we got in there? Moves around so quick. Free lunch. That's what we need to send. We need to send people free lunches.
Yeah.
Future trends, that's cool. Team management. Digital creation. Talent attraction. So I guess there's some interesting things starting to come out of there. Sustainability high on the list. We're definitely going to have a module on sustainability. We're working on that at the moment. So we'll definitely look at that.
There's quite a few that fit kind of within an HR people management context around diversity.
Yeah, the cyber awareness, that would definitely be part of the digital transformation for sure, and digital. We'll definitely be including those. Great.
Yeah, very good. That's really helpful. It's helpful for us in terms of headline topics, but also what might be some of the emphasis that we place on some of our other topics, like our HR or change programs. So that's what we wanted to cover. We wanted to just talk briefly about some of the trends that we see in learning and digital learning and some of the challenges we see for organisations. Hopefully you related to one or two of those personas as individuals that you could kind of relate to. And we really would like to take your feedback on this concept if you think that this is something that you, your teams and others would benefit from. Graham and I think you need to leave quite early, but I'm around. We've also on the back table there going to ask for a wave. Emma and Samita and team from Cranfield, so they're also people that you can talk to about this concept. So thanks for your attention and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.